And this is something about Donald Trump that a lot of people appreciate. I think even people who don't agree with him policy-wise will usually acknowledge is a good thing. Somebody like Hillary Clinton, right? She's a person who follows every single one of the rules and conventions necessary to create good optics for oneself and be considered a conventional political leader who could be tenable to the American people and the establishment. But behind closed doors and behind the scenes, we all know she's unbearably corrupt. Donald Trump, on the other hand, follows none of the rules, none of the social conventions surrounding the way political leaders are supposed to speak and act in this country. And yet, relative to basically every establishment political leader in this country, and especially Hillary Clinton, he's squeaky clean. This is not something I would have said about him back in 2016, by the way. I wouldn't vouch for the guy at that time. When the Russia stuff first came up, I was unsure if it was true or not. But as they continued to investigate and it continued to become apparent that it was a nothing burger, and they spent years trying to nail him on anything they could with all of these random investigations, and they found nothing, it became obvious that this guy was way cleaner than I ever thought he was to begin with.
If I can just pick up on two things there. The first thing is how he presents himself optically is, I don't want to say it's a tactic, but it's something I've learned is very useful for when you do mainstream television, because it's very different to the sort of relaxed, long-form stuff that you guys do here and we do over at the Lotus Eaters. And that is, most of the time, people will just want to monologue in their little section box, and they want to say their piece, and they're not actually addressing you if you're on a debate panel with someone. They're just trying to win the audience over. What Trump does is he breaks the fourth wall. He shows that the emperor has no clothes. He routinely says, okay, this is how they're framing something. This is how they're trying to make me look bad. When I've done that on air before, if someone isn't addressing my point, I'll just say to the audience, just so you guys know, you're not going to answer my question. That's it. Just so everyone can see, you're just going to dodge it and you're going to come up with your pre-scripted talking points. And it shows the disingenuity of the establishment. And that connects to the fact of, and this is why they say certain things are beyond debate, or they say certain things are threats to democracy, or the uniparty agrees on both policies. There's a German legal theorist that I know James Lindsay is not a fan of, as he has had a go at me on Twitter this week, Carl Schmitt. Now, let me declare, I disavow his mid-century German allegiances later on. But before he joined the party that we will not name, he recognized that things like liberalism and technology are depoliticizing forces. And he defined political as the friend-enemy distinction. There is a group of people that are against your end-stated goals, and there are a group of people that are for it. And even though you might have a common enemy at the time, when the enemy is vanquished, are we rebuilding the same society? And the depoliticizing force, it eliminates, it mires things in debate, and it says certain things are beyond debate, and so it stigmatizes certain perspectives. And actually that smuggles in the existential threat. So that would be like the fall of the Republic. So the wheels are still spinning, the oligarchs are still profiting, and in the background, the forces of entropy are setting on your country and tearing it apart. And that's what I think people felt when they voted for Donald Trump. They felt that the establishment had ring-fenced off certain things, like the global offshoring of manufacturing to leave the country behind, the hollowing out of the social texture of the United States, where we're all just squabbling over equality and forgetting about the capital C creator in the Bill of Rights. And because those things were beyond reproach, it didn't not have human consequences. And they saw this man as a repoliticizing force. They're going to speak to us, his friends, against our enemies. He is pointing out the depoliticizing framing, and he's hammering them on it.
Yeah, I think social media censorship was also a technological, squishing of, civil rights, or at least like, who has the right to tell me I can't say what I want on the internet just because it's owned by a private company? Like, no. It's. I agree with you. The technology is way beyond politics, and it can take things like a snowball down a hill. So, for good or evil, I understand or for good or bad, like whether or not it's good that we had someone come in and start saying he's a bad guy, I'm a good guy. Like, it is polarizing, but it's maybe people just craved it subconsciously because we've been in this like bubble of like allowing these corporations to kind of take control.
Yeah. Well, no, I think there's some truth in that. And also say, I think the primary reason why people want this friend-enemy distinction is because in reality, you do have friends and you do have enemies, yes. And there is such a thing as good and evil. And for a very long time, what evil has done is attempted to blur the lines between the two so that it could ultimately redefine them. There's no such thing as good. There's no such thing as bad. It's all one thing. And then once people are confused enough, they start to tell you that the good things are bad and the bad things are good.